Our meeting April 21st, just a few days before Thunder hits and Derby season strikes. My name is Greg Braun. I'm your president. We've got an exciting program today. Let's begin with today's invocation with Kristen Boone, President and CEO of Fund for the Arts. Kristen.
Good afternoon. I hope you'll join me as each of us consider our own blessings and give our own thanks. I want to share some thoughts about the values that bring us together. It's an old Irish prayer. You've blessed us with friends and laughter and fun, with rain that's as soft as the light from the sun. You've blessed us with stars to brighten each night. You've given us help to know wrong from right. You've given us so much. Please, Lord, give us too a heart that is always grateful to you. Amen.
Make some joyful noise for you all and make the meetings just a little bit more fun than they might be otherwise. And sometimes when we are really lucky, we're able to choose a song that supports the message of our speakers. So today we are going to perform Big Yellow Taxi, which is known to some as They Paved Paradise and They Put Up a Party. The lyrics, which really are even more relevant today than they were 46 years ago when it was written.
Know your music.
Don't it all seem to go, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. Pay paradise, put up a parking lot. Why not pay paradise, put up a parking lot? They took away the trees, put them in the tree museum. Charge the people a dollar and a half just to see 'em. Oh no, no, but I wanna see you go. When you don't know what you got till it's gone. In paradise, put up a parking lot. Why not? In paradise, put up a parking lot. Father, put away that TV. I wanna saw some apples, believe me, the birds and the bees. Please, don't it all seem to go when you don't know what you got till it's gone. In paradise, put up a parking lot. In paradise, put up a parking lot. Don't it always seem to go when you don't know what you got till it's gone. In paradise, put up a parking lot. Why not? In paradise, put up a parking lot. Late last night, heard the screaming ghost and a big yellow taxi gonna take away my woman. Don't know, but it always seems to go when you don't know what you got till it's gone. In paradise, put up a parking lot. Why not? In paradise, put up a parking lot. Why you wanna give, why you wanna give, why you wanna give it all away? Why you wanna give, why you wanna give, why you wanna give it all away? Why you wanna give, why you wanna give, why you wanna give it all away? Why you wanna give, why you wanna give, why you wanna give it all away? Why you wanna give, why you wanna give, why you wanna give it all away? Why you wanna give, why you wanna give, why you wanna give it all away?
Thank you, President Gregg. I'm really delighted to be part of the program today because the subject is about community health and quality of life, and something many Louisvillians and citizens are very involved and concerned about. And we have two highly engaged community dynamos with us. The first speaker is going to be Aaron Thompson, who is our first Louisville urban forester, who is appointed by Mayor Fisher to manage tree placement and permitting within public right-of-way property in neighborhoods that are targeted by the comprehensive tree canopy assessment. You'll be hearing about that shortly. Because of our dangerously low tree canopy in Jefferson County, Louisville has the fastest growing heat island index in the country, and you'll soon learn more about that. Following Aaron is Cindy Sullivan, Louisville's longtime horticulture expert and icon, who is the executive director of Trees Louisville, which was formed last August. Let me catch up, to lead our massive community effort to increase our canopy on private property, which is 70% of all property in Louisville is private. So it's a big issue to address that. I hope after hearing Aaron and Cindy's presentation, you will be better informed and want to get engaged in your home neighborhood association or your business areas, and also with your Metro Council members. They each have significant community development funds available for this project. Also, know any of us are available to help you also. The mayor's 3-year Tree Advisory Commission sunsetted in July of 2015 with the delivery of a tree ordinance proposal, which is closely modeled after what smart cities like Chicago, Charlotte, Denver, Pittsburgh, and many others are doing. They are a full generation ahead of Louisville, Kentucky in attacking their canopy deficit. Our ordinance proposal is circulating around various city agencies and committees while we continue to lose a documented 54,000 trees a year to disease infestation and, of course, development. So besides Trees Louisville, there's a broad effort here to respond to our current problems. Let me mention just a few. Last Friday was Earth Day around the world, and Louisville celebrated it with the dedication of our new 4,000-acre parklands. Some of the folks here are on that board or very involved with the fundraising. And Dan Jones reported they have planted 60,000 new trees at the parklands and are planting another 10,000. Then there's the Louisville Sustainability Council, which is formed by, with the Bingham Fellows through Leadership Louisville by Rotarian Steve Egger. And Brightside, you've met Gina O'Brien today that's here. Metro Parks has planted just this year 1,300 trees. Olmsted Parks Conservancy plants hundreds of trees a year. The Nature Conservancy, both the Kentucky chapter and nationally, has adopted Louisville, and you heard this presentation by the state chairman, David Femister, last July about how they're bringing enormous resources to help us. Love Louisville Trees is another, which has very important education and volunteer program to plant hundreds of trees in low canopy urban neighborhoods, and perhaps some of you have volunteered for some of their recent West Louisville tree planting projects. And finally, I'd like to mention the Louisville Downtown Management District, and thanks to Greg Heitzman's leadership, to replace 320 dead trees in the Central Business District killed by what I call the 3 Ds. That's disease, drought, and drunks. And it's a real challenge to grow a 100-year canopy tree in a 3x3 hole in the sidewalk or a 4x4. And I'm grateful for Vanessa Burns, who is our Public Works Director, in helping getting these holes in the sidewalk increased so we can extend the life and create shade for once. So you can see a lot of good things are happening, but with all these combined efforts, we know the unfortunate statistics. Monday night, I was driving down River Road to a dinner, and with the new leaves recently opened on Cox's Park on River Road, there are hundreds, or at least half of the trees in Cox's Park are dead because of the emerald ash borer. And you'll see this all over our community. If you're driving to Lexington, you'll see the same devastation. So they are going, the emerald ash borer is going to kill me. It's going to, are you on? Hello? Are we there? Okay, it's going to kill 15% of our existing low canopy. So other problems are already on the way. So the good news, we have Aaron and Cindy, and I'm going to ask them to come up now and hope you will be inspired by their wonderful presentation. So Aaron and Cindy, would you please come up now? Welcome to you all. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name's Erin Thompson. I'm the urban forester for the city of Louisville, and thank you to Henry and the rest of the Rotary for inviting me here today to speak along with Cindy Sullivan. So today we're going to be talking about Louisville's tree canopy. To start off, I'm just going to tell you quickly about myself, but we'll go the other direction. So I am the urban forester for the city of Louisville, and I do head the Division of Community Forestry for Louisville Metro. We oversee all of the city public right-of-way trees regarding permitting, tree education. We also work to protect and increase the canopy that we have and educate the public about what they can do on their private property. And then community engagement, one of our biggest pieces to help with everyone. And I just wanted to point out some of our many community partners. Henry already talked a little bit about Trees Louisville, Louisville Grows, and then the Downtown Partnership. Of course, I work with Brightside. Every November, we do community-wide planting day, and we usually add between 100 and 150 trees just in that one day to a neighborhood in Louisville. Metro Parks, we work with neighborhood associations like Old Louisville, and we work down with the smallest individual on their abutting property and just about tree education. But our focus today, primarily for this discussion, is our urban tree canopy. In 2015, the city, along with partners, contracted Davie Resource Group to provide us a tree canopy assessment. Why did this come about? Partly because of the Tree Advisory Commission recommendation to do that, but also several other people in our community voicing the need to know where we're at and where we need to go. The tree canopy assessment looks at an 8-year period from 2004 to 2008. Davie looked at aerial imagery to quantify what type of land classifications we have. They also looked at demographics such as socio-demographic and economic levels in places where there are canopy trees and where there's not, and then ecosystem services and available planting opportunities. The main heart of the data really is on the land classification. So what they did is they classified our land in 5 different categories, whether it's tree canopy, impervious surfaces, grass or vegetation, soil, being bare soil, or water. The most recent data, being 2012, shows that at that time, Louisville had a 37% canopy cover. Of course, impervious surfaces, so that would be pavement or say a structure, is 22%, grass and vegetation, 35%, bare soil being at 4%, and our water being at 2%. During that 8-year period, from 2004 to 2012, we saw fluctuations and changes. We saw positive changes and negative changes. The most important one that we focus on, of course, for the study, being a tree canopy assessment, is the trees. So in 2004, we had a 40% canopy cover. By 2012, we had dropped to 37%. It's a 3% change over an 8-year period. It came to be known as about an annual loss of 54,000 trees per year. But if you look at it on a daily basis, we're losing approximately 150 trees a day. Also, we saw increases in impervious surfaces by 5%. Grass and vegetation did increase minimally, where soil stayed the same, but our water cover decreased. The ecosystem services that are provided by that 37% canopy cover are one of the most significant reasons to explain why trees are important. There's multiple benefits of trees. I think most of us can look over here at this table of yellowwoods and say, ooh, they're green and they're pretty and I want one. And it's gonna be beautiful in my yard and it's gonna raise my property value. But what about trees cleaning our air, stemming off stormwater runoff and a soil erosion? And then sequestering carbon and storing it. Right there at 37%, we were seeing a value of $560 million that our trees are providing us. And then, of course, we look at areas where there's high quantity of canopy and areas of low quantity of canopy. For myself as the urban forester for this city, I very much do focus the capital funds the city gives me and my department to manage in areas of greatest need. So far, in 3 years, we have been able to plant about 3,500 trees, specifically in some of these council districts. The downtown council district, Council District 6. Of course, 5 is not on here. I only showed areas that were under 20%. I've done a lot of work in Council District 5 in the West End. And then we're looking at other areas. One thing I like to point out to people is, even though there might be a council district or an area of town that has a really good canopy cover, ideally we want all of Jefferson County, being all of the city of Louisville, that's almost 400 square miles, to be roughly at 40 to 45% and then beyond. But those people, private residents or the public property owners, being the city, need to realize in a natural forest system, there's always continuous regeneration. We as humans are the instigator that's prohibiting that natural regeneration, so we need to also be the instigators to make sure the natural regeneration is occurring. And then moving forward, it was very interesting. A lot of you have probably heard a little bit about our urban heat island issues, and there's an assessment on that coming out soon. But we had a brief little piece of study done on one day in June in 2010, where across the city we saw significant temperatures about 95 degrees. And in those areas that were targeted as hot spots that felt that extreme heat, they overlapped with the 4 lowest tree canopy areas. That right there goes to prove that to absorb heat, we also need trees besides other cooling mechanisms. So think about that right here downtown where we are, what that can do. Around here at the Galt House, they do a beautiful job landscaping, adding trees, Muhammad Ali Center, situations like that. So maybe you can think about your business downtown or an area downtown where you can make a positive effect in such a situation. And then what do we do? What happens if we don't do anything and be proactive? So Henry briefly mentioned the emerald ash borer. It's a nasty little invasive pest from Asia. It came over here through trade. It's an unfortunate pest that has made it across our country and decimated our ash trees. By just estimating that 10 to 17% of our tree population is ash, if we do nothing about combating loss in general, we could see it drop to 25%, but with the effects of the emerald ash borer, our tree canopy could be down as low as 20%. And that is a long, long, far away point from being at 40 to 45% in the long run. And then lastly, I think the key point that I want to make before I turn this over to Cindy is private versus public properties and where there's opportunity to plant. So Davies' report specifically talks about opportunities, open spaces, or maybe a place that can be converted to a green space where trees can live. But majority of our property is held privately at 69%, where only 31% of our property is public. And we in the city, moving forward in a positive direction, are trying to protect what canopy we have on our city properties and increase it. Privately held properties hold at least 71% of our current tree canopy, where 29% is held on public properties. So the next no-brainer that comes from that is we have more planting opportunities on our private properties. Unfortunately, me with the city, I can't use city fund on private properties, but what I can do is partner and help educate and move forward to get the word out and encourage everyone to plant a tree on your property, on your church's property, maybe it's your school property. And from here, I'll let Cindy talk about Trees Louisville and the efforts that they're making in just such an effort.
Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you for having us here today. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces. And as Aaron said, Trees Louisville is working very diligently with private property owners, businesses, corporations, institutions to help improve our canopy on that 70% of land that's available in those planting spaces. In the short 9 months of our existence as a 501c3 organization, we've formed and initiated some real serious partnerships with a number of different groups, and I want to talk about a few of those partnerships and about some of our projects today. We partnered, I'm going the wrong way. Am I?
To the right.
Oh, I don't know the difference between my left and my right. I'm sorry. I have an extra shopping chip instead of a directional chip. It just makes my husband crazy.
Extra horticultural
Yeah.
chip versus a technology
Yeah,
chip.
it's a Latin chip. I've got an extra Latin chip for botanical names. The other stuff doesn't work. We've worked with Habitat for Humanity with volunteers from St. Xavier High School and Assumption and Sacred Heart High School to be able to plant trees on Habitat for Humanity properties where they have existing homes. It was a great project, and it helped to celebrate the 30 years of Habitat for Humanity's existence here in Louisville, and we hope that now that we've done that Habitat for Humanity will go ahead and plant a tree with every new house that they build or fix up. We've also worked with a couple of artists from Los Angeles. They're here in town working on an installation, and they also are activists. So every time they go to a community to work on a new installation, they identify fruit trees that are available for people to pick on public lands, and if there aren't any, they plant some. So we worked with volunteers from Louisville Grows and with 21C to help add some fruit trees to the Portland Orchard Project. And because our mission is canopy improvement as well, we did big fruit trees. We planted persimmon trees, as well as some pears and some quince. And just this week, we worked with volunteers from Metropolitan Sewer District at their central maintenance facility. We helped to plant 135 trees. We planted them, mulched them, watered them, and it's all part of MSD's effort to plant one tree for each and every employee. What a brilliant idea. That's 600 trees, just like that. There's another partnership of which I am particularly proud. We teamed up with the University of Kentucky College of Agriculture's Department of Landscape Architecture. Now, just let me get in one little agricultural dig here. Any landscape architects in the room? Okay, good. Because the funny thing about it is that horticulturists like myself tend to pretty relentlessly ridicule landscape architects, because even though they're landscape architects, many of them don't seem to care much or know much about plants. So, now, it's a mutual admiration society because those landscape architects also make fun of us lowly horticulturists. So, it goes both ways. But I was really pleasantly surprised when I found out that University of Kentucky Department of Landscape Architecture had added a new course to the curriculum. It's called Design with Plants. Brilliant. So Dr. Sass and his students came up last fall, and they are helping us do landscape designs for our projects. It's great for us. It's great for them because they get to have real-life experiences going to a place, looking at it, evaluating it, choosing the plants, and they're coming back next week to look at some of the projects that they did designs for. And by the way, I got to go to the critique. They actually call it post 'em and toast 'em. They put their designs up, and the chairman of the department and some of the professors, ooh, man, critique, it was scary. But I made sure that every one of those students got an A for their projects. Our most ambitious project so far is our Trees Louisville Jefferson County Public School Campus Tree Enhancement Project. We've worked with JCPS to plant trees on 17 different campuses during this planting season. Now keep in mind that JCPS has 155 school campuses. They're the 27th largest school system in the United States. And our project focuses on walking paths and playgrounds and parking lots like these that you're seeing now that are way, way, way too common on our public school campuses. And Dr. Donna Hargens will be the very first one to tell you that campuses provide endless opportunities for budding artists, scientists, mathematicians, and beyond that, trees also provide mental health and mindfulness and can help improve that. Studies show that access to nature helps yield better cognitive function, more self-discipline, and better focus. So we are planting trees, and lots of them. At Maupin Elementary, we partnered with Ecotech and their 10,000 Trees program to plant 56 trees. At Doss High School, 95 trees. At Medora, 70 trees. At Kenwood Elementary, 28 trees. And let me point out that at Kenwood, this is one of the schools that is a English as second language school. There's 650 students there, and they are currently, at last count I think, teaching kids with 22 different languages and dialects. And when we went that day to plant trees, these kids really asked some fabulous questions, some really very well-informed questions. And it just goes to show that hopefully having this exposure will help them with our future. And again, at Unseld Early Childhood Development Center, 70 trees. All in all, we've put in more than 800 trees this winter. And with trees, of course, come maintenance. So JCPS has committed to the maintenance, and they've provided the mulch for all the trees, they provided water bags for all of the trees, and they've even created a visual dashboard for each planting location that we can assign a watering schedule to. And then that schedule has to be verified by someone from the school that the trees have actually been watered. And if they're not watered, the leaves on the trees of that visual dashboard will start to turn brown and wilt. And no child wants to see that. Focusing on schools and community organizations like yours, the Louisville Rotary, is incredibly, incredibly important because, again, it's all about the education. Because what people don't understand, they will not appreciate. And what they don't appreciate, they won't protect. And what they don't protect, they're going to lose. Now, I am not going to leave you with an image of cut trees. So I'm going to leave you with this one. This is a very special tree. We affectionately refer to it as our climbing tree. It is a 36-year-old contorted beech that is about 15 feet tall and about 25 feet wide. It currently resides at a nursery here in Goshen. And what we would like to do is move this tree to the pre-K playground at Maupin Elementary so that the 3-, 4-, and 5-year-olds can use this tree instead of plastic play equipment. Because we hope to cultivate a new generation of children that feel that self-satisfaction and that sense of success that I know some of you probably felt the last time that you climbed a tree. So Erin and I will be more than happy to answer a few questions if you have them. Again, thanks so much for having us.
Erin, Cindy, thank you. We're going to open up the microphones. Microphones will be open to Rotarians with questions. Don't forget, Rotarians only, quick questions. We don't want to hear what your favorite tree is. We'll open up with the mics. I do have a question. Let me start up. My office is on Frankfurt Avenue, and my home is on Lexington Road. And every year, the utilities companies come through and hack and slice and destroy some of these trees. Do they come forward and help replenish, or is that an obligation? I understand why they're doing it, but I'm like, do they come forward and help in any way?
I have to say, for me, being with the city, I've had a close working relationship with LG&E. In fact, I used to be employed by them as a contracted arborist. So more than understandable what they have to do based on federal regulations and trimming the trees. Now, there have been situations where, based on ordinance, the tree's in the right-of-way, the abutting property owner is responsible for maintaining that tree, but they have to come to the city for permit. I've found situations people cannot financially afford to manage that tree, say it's dead and it needs to be removed. And LG&E has been very nice and helped come out and take down a few of these trees. And I'm not talking about a 20-foot tall tree. I'm talking about an 80 to 100-foot tall tree that it takes 5 people to wrap around and hug the trunk. And that's a lot of money from the private sector.
Charlie.
So that's another challenge, those medians. I can say that Gina O'Brien from Brightside is here, and they are looking at a project of replacing a few of those trees. What I would encourage you all to do is when you're out driving, or maybe families driving, encourage not to run over the trees in the median. That's one of the biggest challenges with those medians.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Charlie Mattingly, Cindy, this is kind of for you. There are a lot of people in here, I think, who are involved with small cities in our county, and I just wonder if what St. Regis Park is doing, which you're familiar with, would transfer to any of the other small cities as a way to get the Tree Louisville project expanded in a way.
Thank you so much for asking that question, Mr. Mattingly. And St. Regis Park is an excellent example of one of our small suburban cities that is really, really stepped up and are planting trees. Their city budget is paying for trees to be planted in yards because there's really no public spaces in St. Regis Park. So budget money is actually going to buy and plant trees that people request for their yards. It's a wonderful project. It's very well run by a very active tree board. And if you are in one of those suburban cities and if you don't have a tree board, then you should step up and volunteer, because this is 3 people on the tree board, and they're just very enthusiastic, and they have planted 100 trees, almost 100 trees, just in the last 2 years, since the fall of 2014. That's fabulous for a 600 household neighborhood or city. Great question.
And just, can I add one more thing? Another thing is St. Regis is a Tree City USA. And so a requirement of Tree City USA is that you proactively invest in trees in your community. And if you don't, you lose that recognition. And so that's a big deterrent for a lot of these suburban cities to, oh, we're no longer, that just looks bad. So if you're in a suburban city, if you're not currently Tree USA, I encourage you to become Tree USA City.
And it's only $2 a household. Surely to goodness. We can do that, right?
I'm Jerry Martin. Thanks for coming, ladies. I want to put in a plug for Mike Heyman and then ask a question. One of the guests today, Mike Heyman, is a retired photographer of the Courier-Journal, and he has been the real impetus behind several very, not only trees, but planting projects in the East End, including Seneca Gardens and Whitehall. He's kind of the volunteer resident gardener of supervisor of Whitehall's. And if you haven't been there to see what they do with trees, and I'd encourage you to do that. I don't think a lot of people know what a treasure that is. And Whitehall has 2 pretty much full-time gardeners there. So if you see something and have questions, there's usually Mike's over there a lot, and there's a lot there. So Mike's been a great help to a lot of areas. My question is, when we have these hot summers and the trees, do these bags that you buy, we have several small trees, some of which, thanks to Mike, he helped us buy, do those bags, those water bags that you buy at the landscapers, do those really help, or is there a better way to try to get your trees through the stress of the hot summers?
So those water bags are used by the city for the first 3 years of watering maintenance on newly planted trees. Now, we do experience times of drought, and I always encourage people at that time to continue to water your trees, even though it might be a really big, well-established tree. What those water bags do is hold about 15 to 20 gallons of water, and there's tiny little pinholes in the bottom, and they slowly release water into the soil, which then goes into the root system. So adding water slowly is a positive. Just throwing a bucket of water on a tree and watching most of it run off maybe down into the gutter, for my situation, for street trees, that's a negative. So yes, those water bags are fantastic, and I like them a lot for private sector, being private property, or if I'm engaging people to maintain their newly planted tree. because they have the resources and the willingness to do it. It's a great visual reminder. Oh, I got to fill that up this week. Let me water my tree.
My name is Mike Brumley, and I want to talk about preservation. So, invariably, every year, I have two 80 to 100-foot oaks in my yard. Invariably, every year, somebody once or twice says they're dying, they need to come down. Fortunately, I live in an area like St. Regis. I live in Belmead, where we have free access to an arborist who came out and said those are fine. And invariably, I would say 5 oaks of 50 to 100 feet have been cut down in my neighborhood in the last 3 years because they're told they're dead. Does the city have any access for people in the city to get an arborist at maybe a nominal fee to come to the house and say, no, your tree isn't dead? The guy wants to cut a tree down for a couple $1,000.
Unfortunately, at this time, the city does not have the availability to offer that service. But when people reach out to me and ask about it, if I have maybe a minute or two in my busy schedule, or maybe a staff member does that's an arborist, happy to drive by, look at the tree. I always recommend to people, don't just go with one recommendation. Get at least 3. Make sure it's a licensed company, and make sure they're bonded and insured. And when it comes to pruning or some type of bracing system, you better make sure it's a certified arborist that you're talking to. And I'm a certified arborist through the International Society of Arboriculture, and it's just very important. We take a moral ethical code and doing proper arboricultural practices, and I would really second guess someone coming out and telling you, your tree's dead, take it down. Get a second opinion. I do understand what you're saying. Yeah, but I'm sorry, unfortunately, I don't at this time have the opportunity to, supply that resource.
Could they call 311?
They can call 311, and unfortunately on private property, Division Community Forestry has no jurisdiction. If we're able to assist, we will. And I always tell people, trees are like humans. There's a mortality, and like humans who lose their hair, sometimes trees lose limbs. And maybe it's just a deadwood pruning that needs to be done. And don't always listen to maybe a company that you feel like is just kind of out there to get your money. You wouldn't go with the first plumber you have come out to your house. Get a second opinion. Get a third opinion.
Okay, in the back.
I'm Dave Luckett, and I'm a Louisville native, and it may be selective memory or it may just be getting older, but I don't remember a lot of invasive vines in all the public right-of-way that we have now. What is the impact of the invasive vines, and what should be done?
So I can address this too. I can talk about a lot of things.
Public land.
So what I believe you're referring to is along the I-64 corridor where they put the interstate in through Cherokee and Seneca Park.
Cut down about 5 30-inch diameter trees.
Okay, so those type of situations, I was just going to point out I-64 because I definitely know that's transportation cabinet land, and they have been working with Metro Parks to try to remediate those invasive plants. If you're asking where they come from, it's partly human impact. We go out, we drive our cars in places, then we come back to Louisville, that seed goes off of our wheel into our woods, or we plant non-native trees that are invasive. Tree of Heaven is a perfect example of that. Olmsted Parks Conservancy has been working very proactively in the Olmsted Parks and Parkway system to remediate that in coordination with Metro Parks. As for what I'm over in the public right-of-way, I need to check Mockingbird Valley, but I believe that recently Metro Parks did another small project adjacent to Champions Park, Eva Badman, and Cox's Park to remediate invasive species over there too. And there's multiple invasive species. There's not just one. So I encourage you to educate yourself, and if you have them in your yard, I encourage you to get rid of them and plant native.
Yeah, my name is John Clark. I live in the city of Windy Hills, and I'm kind of informational here for a second, and the question's about having an arborist come by. Mike Hayden has been is and Mike Smiley, of course, the late Mike Smiley, helped us develop our board. And it's these communities like St. Regis Park, Windy Hills, and if you all remember the green space that's at the corner of US 42 and Rudy Lane, was a property that they, the city of Windy Hills bought, and we've planted, I can't tell you how many trees, probably at least 50 there, maybe nearly 100. And they have a plan for the community, and each individual person in a city of Windy Hills can get a tree. If they buy one, they get one free. There's a lot of programming like that going on. But if you've got a problem, these community city boards will help you. If you got an answer, like Mike Brumley over here had a question about what can a citizen do, because they do get preyed upon, and older people do have this issue with, here's a tree in their yard that looks like it's got a couple of dead limbs on it. But your community tree board can help you. That's all I wanted to mention. And thank you all for this. This has been very informative.
Thank you.
Last
And I
question,
love that
David.
green
All right,
space at
thanks,
Windy
Greg.
Hills.
Quick question.
David Dunn, I'm on the neighborhood board for the city of Rolling Fields next to Mockingbird Valley. Our city sponsored the planting of a couple dozen trees along Brownsboro Road. My question is, it seems like the KYTC, Kentucky Transportation Department, is at odds with the tree canopy movement because they removed about half the trees we planted.
In my experience, especially in this past year, KYTC is coming around. They're seeing the light. They hear your voices. In regards to some of those trees that were planted along Brownsboro Road, my understanding, and I can't speak for the city of Rolling Hills, was that they did go through the proper procedure and apply for an encroachment permit. That permit was denied based on the species that was used, and the planting happened anyways. I can tell you, as a forester, as a certified arborist, those oaks that were planted in front of the old Dolls shopping center, I would have never planted those in that space. It is a small island that is maybe, 40 feet long and 3 feet wide. That is just right there asking for those trees to die. Planting something more appropriate and working with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and trying to find that species. They've got an excellent person now on staff who has a lot of horticulture experience, who is now helping them understand what are appropriate trees and what aren't appropriate trees in those spaces, besides communicating with us here at the city. I think that in the future, we're going to see a positive change in the transportation cabinet, but we need to hold them up to that.
Thank you. Aaron Thompson, Cindy Sullivan, thanks so much. I'm sure they'll be here for you after the meeting's over to answer any questions. Don't forget the What is Rotary table in the corner. Everyone have a great Thunder week. Earned.